Do you want to see the president go to jail? Me too.
Breaking news, we finally have a judge willing to hold this administration accountable for their actions.
Breaking news, a federal judge is holding the Trump administration in criminal contempt of court. That's correct. As of today, federal judge Bowberg has found sufficient probable cause to hold the Trump administration in federal criminal contempt of court. As background, the Trump administration refused to turn around various deportation planes headed to El Salvador in direct violation of Bowberg's order telling him to. So today, the judge specifically stated that the government's actions demonstrate a willful disregard for his order, which is enough to hold them in criminal contempt. The court has given the administration up until April 23rd to list in a declaration every single person with knowledge of the court order who is actively defying the court, and to address what they have done to fix the situation so they are no longer held in criminal contempt. This is huge, and what happens with this case will really set the tone for how far the Trump administration can go in defiance of federal court orders.
A federal judge just threatened to hold the Trump administration in criminal contempt over deportation flights, and it's getting political fast. An Obama-appointed judge, James Bowberg, says that the Trump administration violated his order by flying deportees to El Salvador, and now he is threatening criminal contempt charges. The White House says the judge is overreaching and trying to block lawful deportations under the Alien Enemies Act, which Trump invoked to remove Venezuelan gang members tied to Tren de Aragua. Bowberg claims that the planes should have turned around, but his order wasn't even in writing. By the time he spoke, the deportees had already landed. El Salvador's president mocked the rule, posting, "Oopsie, too late." Trump's team says this is just another case of a liberal judge interfering with national security and trying to stall one of Trump's key promises, immigration enforcement.
Judge Bowberg has officially found enough evidence to find the Trump administration in contempt of court. I'll be reading from his official contempt opinion, the introduction, and the conclusion. On the evening of Saturday, March 15th, 2025, this court issued a written temporary restraining order barring the government from transferring certain individuals into foreign custody pursuant to the Alien Enemies Act. At the time the order issued, those individuals were on planes being flown overseas, having been spirited out of the United States by the government before they could vindicate their due process rights by contesting their removability in federal court, as the law requires. Rather than comply with the court's order, the government continued the hurried removal operation. Early on Sunday morning, hours after the order issued, it transferred 2 plane loads of passengers protected by the temporary restraining order into a Salvadoran mega prison. As this opinion will detail, the court ultimately determines that the government's actions on the day demonstrate a willful disregard for its order, sufficient for the court to conclude that probable cause exists to find the government in criminal contempt. The court does not reach such conclusions lightly or hastily. Indeed, it has given defendants ample opportunity to rectify or explain their actions. None of their responses have been satisfactory. One might nonetheless ask how this inquiry into compliance is able to proceed at all, given that the Supreme Court vacated the temporary restraining order after the events in question. That court's later determination that the TRO suffered from legal defect, however, does not excuse the government's violation. Instead, it is a foundational legal precept that every judicial order must be obeyed, no matter how erroneous it may be, until a court reverses it. If a party chooses to disobey the order rather than wait for it to be reversed through the judicial process, such disobedience is punishable as contempt. That foundational rule of law answers not just how this compliance inquiry can proceed, but why it must. The rule reflects that belief that in the fair administration of justice, no man can be judge in his own case, no matter how exalted his station or righteous his motives. The Constitution does not tolerate willful disobedience of judicial orders, especially by officials of a coordinate branch who have a sworn oath to uphold it. To permit such officials to freely annul the judgment of the courts of the United States would not just destroy the rights acquired under those judgments, it would make a solemn mockery of the Constitution itself. So fatal a result must be deprecated by all. Before initiating any criminal contempt proceedings, courts typically allow the parties an opportunity to purge its contempt, that is, to remedy its violation by voluntarily obeying the court order. Sounds fair. The most obvious way for defendants to do so here is by asserting custody of the individuals who were removed in violation of the court's class-wide TRO, so that they might avail themselves to their right to challenge their removability through a habeas proceeding. The court will also give defendants an opportunity to propose other methods of coming into compliance, which the court will evaluate. In the event that the defendants do not choose to purge their contempt, the court will proceed to identify the individuals responsible for the conduct by determining whose specific act or omission caused the non-compliance. The next step would be for the court, pursuant to the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure, to request that the contempt be prosecuted by an attorney for the government. If the government declines or the interest of justice requires, the court will appoint another attorney to prosecute the contempt. Conclusion: for the foregoing reasons, the court will find probable cause that defendants' actions constitute contempt. It will provide them an opportunity to purge such contempt. If they opt not to do so, the court will proceed to identify the contemptors and refer the matter to prosecution. In other words, they must bring these men back. And if they refuse to do so, the judge is going to proceed to figure out specifically which individuals are responsible for being in contempt of court and place sanctions on them. Will it be Donald Trump himself? I guess we'll see. Probably not.
We have some huge breaking news right now. Judge James Bowberg has just found that there is sufficient probable cause to hold the Trump administration in criminal contempt of court. This is a huge ruling. This comes in the Alien Enemies Act, Tren de Aragua case, where the Trump administration refused to turn various planes around, flying to El Salvador, despite Judge Bowberg's explicit instruction to do so. Judge Bowberg just handed down this order saying that this opinion will in detail determine that the government's actions on the day demonstrates a willful disregard for its order sufficient for the court to conclude that probable cause exists to find the government in criminal contempt. Now, the court has given the government until April 23rd to describe in a declaration steps that they have taken to purge this criminal contempt, and also to identify the individuals with knowledge of the court's order and open defiance of the court. This is significant, and it's well on their way to holding the Trump administration in contempt of court. Spread the word. I'll do a full breakdown on my Substack right now. Follow along for all the news you need to know about.
Today, U.S. District Court Judge James Bowberg ended up finding there was sufficient evidence to claim that the Trump administration is in contempt of his orders from mid-March, where he ordered them to turn around the planes that were headed to El Salvador and not to send another plane because they weren't sure if what he was doing was constitutionally legal. Yet they did not halt the planes and they sent them anyway. My name's Kyle Gauck. I'm running for Congress in the 2nd District of Connecticut. If you're not following along, you're doing it wrong. Judge Bowberg, who is the chief trial judge in the D.C. Circuit, said that the next steps are people will have to come in and give sworn testimony. It can be written testimony, but they must give sworn testimony, and it must be from people who had direct decision-making power, i.e. Pam Bondi, or Tom Homan, or Kash Patel, or Donald Trump himself, or J.D. Vance. And if those sworn testimonies are not satisfactory enough, he will then have to hold actual live in-person witness testimony, and that could be broadcasted. We could get to see that. It's a federal court. We could get to see that on TV. And then, if that is not satisfactory, he could then go and hold the Trump administration in contempt, which includes jail time for these people. And if the DOJ refuses to jail, let's say Pam Bondi, their owner, or whoever she is to them right now, the head of the DOJ, then he can appoint a special attorney to make sure that they are jailed. Talk about a massive win. Needless to say, we have a little while till we see the results of this, but I am super excited. Finally, some good news, some good news.
Breaking news. The Trump administration has been found in probable contempt of court. What does this really mean? Let's talk about what just happened. Because it's a huge deal. A federal judge just said the Trump administration likely acted in contempt of court by ignoring a direct judicial order. This isn't just bad optics. This is a constitutional crisis in real time. Here's what went down. A judge ordered the Trump administration to turn around 2 deportation flights carrying over 200 men back to the U.S. Instead of following the court order, the administration let the planes land in El Salvador anyway. They claimed the judge's instructions weren't legitimate or clear enough, even though he gave them time to fix it or explain their actions. But they didn't fix it, and they didn't comply. They defied a federal court, and now that judge says their actions make a mockery of the Constitution. Judge Bowberg's statement, he said, and quote, "The Constitution does not tolerate willful disobedience of judicial orders, especially by officials who have sworn to uphold it," end quote. Let that sink in. Our government refused to obey the rule of law. If that's allowed to slide, then no court ruling means anything. And the Constitution? It's just a piece of paper. So the judge has now given the Trump administration 1 week to explain how they're going to fix this. But let's be clear, this isn't normal. This isn't leadership. This is how democracies fall. When one branch of government thinks it can override the others with absolutely no consequences, that's how. This is why we fight, not for politics, for the rule of law, for the Constitution, and for our future. Let's see what happens from here.
So a federal judge has officially found probable cause to hold the McDonald Trump administration in criminal contempt of court. Yeah, criminal contempt. That's not just some slap on the wrist technicality. That means they ignored a federal court order. The judge is James Bowberg, a chief judge in D.C. appointed by Obama and known for being pretty by the book. He told the McDonald Trump administration not to deport people under this Alien Enemies Act case. Specifically, he ordered them to bring people back who were wrongfully deported to El Salvador. Instead, McDonald Trump's team just flew 260 people out anyway. Full-on defiance. And Bowberg didn't mince words. He basically said, "You're not above the Constitution. If you're going to break the law, I will find out who's responsible." He gave them until April 23rd to either bring those people back or name names. And here's where it gets even messier. The McDonald Trump administration's arguing that the order wasn't written down, so they don't have to follow it. Like, that's their excuse? A federal judge gives you a ruling in a court and you go, well, technically, no. That's not how any of this works. Now, McDonald Trump and his allies are out here calling for this judge to be impeached because apparently holding people accountable is now a crime in MAGA land. Even Chief Justice John Roberts had to step in and basically say, nah, impeachment is not how we handle this. Disagreeing with a ruling doesn't mean you get to oust the judge. If it was that simple, people would have done that a long time ago. But here's the kicker. Even if this moves forward and someone does get charged with contempt, McDonald Trump could just pardon them, kind of like he did with Joe Arpaio, I think his name is. So there's a real question about whether any of this will stick, which is insane when you think about it. We've got a president who might openly pardon his people for ignoring the courts. This is not how democracy works. This is literally how authoritarianism creeps in, when one branch decides it doesn't have to listen to another and there's no accountability.
So here's a nuclear option that a lot of people aren't talking about. So in the case of when someone is found contempt of court, for example, someone like in the Trump administration, what you normally have happen is you have the U.S. Marshals who report up into Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. You have them arrest the person and bring them to justice. Now, with Pam Bondi leading the Justice Department and Trump not wanting to cooperate, you have what a lot of people call a constitutional crisis. I would agree with those people. And then what are your options? Well, there's a little known provision that a judge can actually deputize like individuals. So you could deputize a police officer like at a local police station or a sheriff or something to arrest those individuals. So there are options here. It remains to be seen how far the judge goes. I hope they go as far as they need to. But like this is the next option is to deputize. Actually, you probably are going to have like an order to the U.S. Marshal in terms of fair process, but then they have the option to deputize. So will be an interesting thing to watch for us in our democracy, or what was a democracy.
So Judge Bowberg, who is the judge that Donald Trump hates and called for to be impeached, is going to start the process of holding the Trump administration in contempt of the court for ignoring court orders about their unlawful deportations to El Salvador. Here's the mic drop moment right here. The Constitution does not tolerate willful disobedience of judicial orders. The Trump administration has been ignoring so many orders from judges, telling them that the deportations they have been carrying out are not lawful, and they keep doing it anyways.
We see it in the case of Abrego Garcia, where the Supreme Court told the Trump administration, this is not legal, you need to facilitate his return back to the U.S. They have done nothing to try to get him back. But yeah, they are just straight up ignoring judges' orders, and it looks like Judge Bowberg is about to try to do something about it.
This is what panicking looks like. Pam Bondi is talking this administration into a no-win situation. Let's not forget, all of this fallout stems from the original mistake that this administration made by shipping 200 supposed Venezuelan gang members off of American soil without due process, without any explanation as to why or how or anything. Judge Bowberg issued an injunction, and he said you need to bring them back here so we can figure out who is on these planes. That's what makes all of this so insane. That's what makes all of this so nonsensical. The courts really have been trying to lay a runway to just get an understanding of what the process is. What are your basis for calling these people criminals? How can you prove that? And if you can, by all means, ship them away. But like I keep saying time and time again, this man is impatient. This whole regime is impatient. And they're impatient because they don't know what they're doing. They made it all up. They are playing fast and loose with our Constitution based simply off the fact that they are prejudiced people. They have been holding on to this bias, this anger for all of this time. They have been waiting for an opportunity to be in power and inflict this sort of pain on the people they disdain the most. But what we're learning is people, for better or for worse, want to preserve their rights in this country. And if we allow this man to be shipped to a foreign nation without any due process, we have lost the democracy that people believe in. So the administration is doing what they can to claw back on this issue, but it is forcing them to make mistakes. And that's why this will not be the first time they will be held in contempt of court. Oh, get ready. There will be more backlash coming. This topic will never go away. The showdown for our Constitution is happening right now. We are in the fight for the future of our country as we speak.